Hello, everyone. My name's Hank Setala,
And I'm Dr. K.
and we're here with a fun episode of Holistic Highlights. Today, we have a topic that I'm sure everyone can relate to, emotional healing, because I think I haven't found anybody I've met yet that has like no emotions at all. So I'm sure that everybody out there has had some point in their life where they've had emotions running amok, where they might have been able to use some tricks, or maybe we can provide some insights on, how to deal with these emotions that we have.
Yeah, I guess they don't do lobotomies anymore, do they?
I sure
Maybe if
hope
they did,
not.
that's the only way you'd really probably have no emotions.
Well, that's a whole thing in
But
psychology. That's a different rabbit hole altogether. But there was actually, yeah, never mind. I don't want to go down
okay.
that hole. But I was thinking one case study specifically where there was like a railroad tie or something that ended up being projected and going through a guy's frontal lobe and caused like a lobotomy like that, and the guy lived, and it was all kinds of research done around him because of his lack of emotions afterwards. Okay, that's a snip the the
Okay.
the little overview version if you ever take psychology, which I think you did actually.
I
Do you
do,
remember that?
yeah. I have a bachelor's in psychology actually, and I left that. I found it too complicated. But it's actually not, it can be, but it's not that bad once you have some ideas, have some
Yeah.
tools.
And we have a few people
So,
just checking in saying good morning. That's Magic Mike checking in,
good
and
morning.
Mark is
Hi, Mark.
checking in. Good morning, everyone. And this is meant as a fluid discussion. So, as we get into the topic today, if you have any particular questions or things you want us to address, please mention them in comments. We love to follow the energy and see where you guys want to take us. But where did you want to start with this wonderful topic on emotions?
I think you're gonna get to play a big role in this today because
Possibly. Well, because
yeah.
emotional healing and the word empath, because we're all empathic, they go hand in hand, and there's all kinds of stuff around being an empath. We actually, now in hindsight, thinking about it, we should have saw if Ryan could be on this one too. But maybe on a future one, we can have like emotional healing 2.0 and get Ryan on because he
Unless
has
you
a
want to
whole.
message him and see if he's impromptu wants to pop in.
Yeah, he might. He just did a stream for. Uh, Let me message him. But if you don't know, Ryan has a group. It's called Empathic Empowerment Facebook Live, and every day around 9 or 9:30, he does a live stream where he talks about empaths and either offering a technique, a topic, or some clarity around places where empaths have a lot of difficulty just processing everything. And he does it every single day. So there's like over 100 videos. If you join the group, you can go back and like binge watch Ryan. Let me say, just message him. Uh,
Yeah, emotions are always a fun big topic. So we'll, I guess, chat. The goal today, I think, that I had in mind is just focusing. A lot of people are unaware of the fact that we always talk about, we both, I think, always talk about how, emotions are in our head, but they carry an energy. So they're around us. So even though we don't see that, emotions actually, with time, start causing certain things in the body to start happening. And most of us don't even think about that. We can make this very simplistic and just call it good old fashioned stress. Where do you hold your stress? Like I used to really hold it in my shoulders. I cleaned that up, so that's all cleaned out now. But um, people hold stress in different areas,
And
and they
for me, it was
don't.
always in the jaw. Like I could
In the
always feel like I'm almost like tensing up in the jaw.
TMJ, did
Yeah.
you have
I
TMJs?
didn't have TMJ, but I could just
Okay.
feel that that's where my pressure was. And then if I would just remind myself all the time. There's this one meridian point right behind the top of the front teeth. If you take your tongue and just put the tip of the tongue right behind the front teeth, it's
Yeah.
hitting this bundle of nerves that helps with relaxation. So whenever I
Mm,
would feel tension
mhm.
throughout the day, I would do like the little mudra for relaxation. I would put the tongue to the roof of my mouth, and even if I was on a phone call at the bank and I was stressing out, I would be doing that every chance I could just to kind of
Yes.
to
That's a
regulate.
great tool. Yeah. When I do my healing processes and when I have my clients do a grounding technique, that's one thing I tell them to do. That very, very important to close that meridian and put the tongue to the roof of the mouth so you can get yourself grounded. That's a really, really important little thing. So yeah, if that's all you want to do is just put your tongue to the roof of the mouth sometimes when you're listening to a conversation, that by itself might slow things down. But I want to get more into the specifics of what emotions specifically, where they go, and where you develop problems in certain parts of your organs. And you can look up, there's a chart you can Google, and it's a negative emotion creation cycle. If somebody wants to Google that, or I don't know if Hank, if you
I'll
want to type that
if I
in.
can find it, I can share it too. Negative emotion creation cycle.
Yeah, it's a organ negative emotion chart.
Oh,
It should,
organ.
yeah, it looks like this. I printed it. It's been in my office because I show clients, but
Oh,
um,
and I wasn't looking at the screen. Can you show it again?
oh yeah,
Oh, yep, I
yeah,
found it then. Yep.
yeah. Um,
Oh, and
we
wait,
can,
before I bring this up, I just want to mention to everybody that is a distinction between feelings and emotions. Feelings, and substitute your own vocabulary because people might have their different points of view around it. But the important thing is to know that there's a difference to the sensations. For the way that I use the word feelings, feeling is when you have an awareness of something and you judge it or label it, you then make it a feeling based on your filters. So if you're picking up as an empath somebody else's potency, but you pick that up and go, oh, they're angry. You had the awareness of something, and now you applied a label to it, and if you name it, you claim it, and that's when it becomes a feeling because now you're running it through filters and labels. Where emotions are more things that are internally driven based on whatever we're doing. It's energy and motion. Just for me, anyway. That's how I make a distinction between it. Okay. And Dr. K, I'm sure you might have different ideas on that too, or
I
maybe you don't.
didn't label it that way at all. I mean, I'm empathic, and it's, I kind of just tell people to I say it like this: we're all sharks. We feel when we've all been in this situation where you're like, oh, I don't want to be around this person. And sometimes we don't know why. We just start gossiping about it. Oh, did you hear Sarah? She's just, so we all pick up on these things, but we all label it in different ways. And this is a better explanation of kind of what's going on. But yeah, here's a little chart. And if somebody wants to, you can look at it and Google this for yourself or print it for yourself. I think it's a really nice explanation of some of the internal problems you may start to develop because of this, what I call umbrella of stress or emotions. So, I mean, I have a further explanation too, but this is something you can print for yourself at home and have, or peruse and pitch it. I don't know, whatever
And,
anybody wants to
and it
do.
and it looks like they also have a flow of energies that are kind of the alchemy of the elements. So, well,
Yeah,
well, in astrology we have four elements, but in Chinese astrology there's five because they bring in metal or these other ones too.
this has metal. Yeah,
Yeah,
at
cool.
least the one I
Yeah,
printed.
I'm just not as familiar with that one to be able to speak to it as I am a different one. But it's the whole idea is that there's like an alchemy process to it as well, potentially, if I'm thinking of the right parallels in the work that I do now. Very cool. I like how this kind of breaks it down and makes a little flow for people to follow.
Yeah, so I guess we'll leave it up for a sec. If it's hard to see, so you'll have to probably Google
Let's.
it yourself, but it may take up the whole screen, right?
Yep.
If we put
I
it up.
was trying to make it bigger, but let's see if I can. There's got to be a way to make it better. Let's see here. Open image in a new tab. Let's try that. Okay, and make it bigger. Well, this will definitely be better, but I don't know if it's going to be super better. Let me remove this.
We'd
And
probably have to share the whole screen and take us off, right?
I can do that too. Yep. Stop screen, and I'm just going to re-add it. Well, I was able to bring it up just as the image itself, and I'm hoping that that will be a little bit easier for people to see. And even with that, I can even take us out and make it just a little bit bigger, but they can still hear us, of course.
Yeah, so you guys can print this off yourselves, just you know what you're looking for now when you go online. But yeah, I mean, it's this is a nice explanation of what starts to happen. Um, what's going on? I'm completely off here. Um, so going through all the organ systems, this is a nice explanation of um, what's happening when you experience or you hold on to certain emotions for a long period of time. So as we kind of, discuss this, if you've, the key and the trick is to even kind of note or become aware that you've been hanging on to some emotion for a long period of time. Because what I find, people aren't even aware. It's like we're just in this go, 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 go world that something happened way back in the past that we never really resolved, and we're still carrying it. So this is a brief overview, and I'll get into, we'll do this quickly, and then Hank and I can get back on. But when you look at the heart, where we start in the far left-hand corner, it says heart and small intestine, negative emotions, hate, cruelty, and impatience. So sometimes we carry hate. Hate's a very strong word, but we carry this for a long period of time somewhere because of something that happened with whoever way back in the past. And we're not even aware of what it's creating. And then as it points to the arrow down, so this is going to create problems in your heart and likely in your small intestine. And as it kind of moves down, the arrow points into the circle, and it can go back and forth. But your liver, eyes, gallbladder, the liver is notorious for holding the emotion of anger and jealousy and a lot of like frustration, anger, frustration slash. And so this is a lot of times people will develop, impaired digestion because your liver pumps out bile, or it basically pumps out certain enzymes. It does all sorts of things, but your gallbladder kind of sits up top, so it kind of pumps out. It does things into the small intestine and pumps things out, like we discussed last time, into your small intestine. So you start developing digestion issues and food stagnations and even ulcers and inability to detoxify the body. So if you have a lot of emotional congestion around your liver and a lot of anger and frustration and jealousy and envy and those types of emotions, it's going to be more challenging to get detoxification processes going. So I always like to work on the emotional piece first before I even start with clients, till we can clean some things out. And then as the arrow points down, it goes into the kidneys, the ears, and the bladder. Kidneys are notorious for holding the emotion of fear. So if you're starting to have kidney problems, you can start developing loss of sexual energy, loss of life force. You just feel kind of, burnt out, nervous systemic disorders. The body can become very acidic because your kidneys are another detoxifying organ. So all these, if you are constantly in fear, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I don't have enough money, or I'm so scared that I might get robbed, or, these types of, if you're holding this fear consistently of the unknown, or whatever kind of fear that you're not even aware of, it's not shocking that you start developing maybe blood pressure issues, or you just feel more fatigued, you have nervous issues. Some of these things really start to, or kidney dysfunctions, these things all start to happen. And some of these start to happen all at once because there's so many emotions. And then we go on to the lungs and the skin. And lungs are notorious for places of grief, depression. And so it's not uncommon to see breathing problems, shortness of breath, even constipation, because now it's interesting that they even say this, because I think last segment I mentioned they're now starting, the functional medicine starting looking into the gut and lung connection. So it's fascinating that I kind of look at this, and there's constipation issues if you are holding a lot of grief. And then as we move up into the spleen, stomach, and pancreas, these are all interconnected too. A lot of energies held in the spleen, such as worry, and in the stomach. The stomach is our solar plexus, and this is where almost all of our stress is held. And this is the first place I clean out. Sometimes just cleaning out the solar plexus resolves a whole lot of issues, because there's so much energy that's held in our center, like we discussed last time. Worry, anxiety, mistrust. So it's very common to have, acid reflux issues, digestion problems, constipation slash diarrhea. Those sorts of things start happening when you're having a lot of these negative emotions. And then it kind of goes back up to the heart, to small intestine, and heart palpitations with hate, cruelty, and patience. So it's this cycle that just starts happening. And sometimes people come in with, multiple things going on. And then it's like, we really need to start cleaning things out and looking into what types of emotions are you holding, where, or, how long have you been holding these things?
One thing to note too, like if you don't have any of these issues, like energetically, in shamanism we would say that it starts out here in the auric field, and well, you can't see my hands; it's out of camera, but my hands are being out, like like outside my or going to my energy field. So things like start out etherically or in the astral plane, if you will, and if we don't address it, it becomes condensed energies. We call it hucha. So like there's only life force energy, but when we're out of flow or if we're out of balancing these types of things, it becomes condensed and more condensed and more condensed, where you can see spots in the aura, and then eventually
Hmm.
it can become physical. So you can start doing a healing process before it becomes physical if you start to be aware with it. Once it gets to this point, you want to see someone like Dr. K who has tools to get these things back into whack, but also do the energy processes that can help prevent adding more fuel to the fire as you start to put
Exactly.
the fire out. Yeah,
And Hank's got tools. We both have
I
tools. We
do.
both have amazing tools. So we can clean these things up. It's almost like when you go to I think of it this way. If you go to your chiropractor once every, I don't know, a lot of people go once a month or every week, this is probably not a bad idea to see one of us to get some of this stuff cleared out, you know, um, just a cleanup so that we know this stuff isn't going to work its way in because it becomes stagnant over time,
Yeah. One of the
right?
first healing things I ever did is I had these. Well, I still use solfeggio tuning forks to this day, but I was advertising the 10-minute tune-up. It was like 10 minutes of energy work just to clear out the energy centers, get everything moving. It doesn't necessarily even have to be anything elaborate, but
No,
definitely put your attention towards it. And then there's also like different teas and things, like for the physical things. I'm sure you can speak to supplements and all that that are good for the different organs. And one thing that comes to mind too is my aunt or my grandma would always say, "Don't get your liver in a quiver." Right, and like it's really significant. Think about your childhood. Did people say certain things to you which caused you energetically to start storing energy in certain places? Because anything that has an anchor point like that, those things are really entrenched in the subconscious, and those are really good to start going after first because they're kind of like the cornerstones. You take that, like some of those original things out, and it can let all the other things start to fall.
exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I do. We start going backwards and it's almost notoriously, I'd say probably 100% of the time, it's something that tracks back into childhood. Because when we come into this world, remember, we're like a clean slate. We don't have any emotional upsets. We just go. We're just kids and we just go. It's not until we start being forced into boxes, don't do that, do this, that's bad, that we go. And that starts instilling fear.
Well, and at the very basic level, as a kid, it's just pure being. You're just being a kid, and they have this joke where they say in parenthood, you teach your child the first years of their life how to walk and to talk, and the rest of their life to sit down and shut up. And I say that jokingly, but like and I'm guilty of it too with my kids. Like, oh no, don't do that. Like the people in the store are watching, or it's drawing attention, and you're embarrassed or whatever. And you're basically telling the child, don't be. You have to not be, and you have to be less, because being what you are right now is embarrassing me, and my thoughts, feelings, and emotions are more important than your beingness, and that is
Yeah.
bullcrap.
Yeah.
And then everything else kind of piles on top of that, and we're doing it with the greatest intentions, um, but it has the consequences of some of these things. And in Peru, when the child is first born, they say that the first soul loss is being cut from the mother, and they actually do a soul retrieval for the baby, and they do
Mm.
something for the Nawi, the epicenter of bringing energy into our field. They do something to close that off, so that you're not walking around being overwhelmed by other people's things. And they say that the children of the North, Americans, we walk around with leaky navels because we were never properly sealed as a child growing up. Anyway, a little shaman heavy on that, but I hope
No, that's a good one. Have you met any Peruvians that have had that done and they do better than us Americans, I guess?
I
What's the
think all the Pacos
comparison?
think of that way. They don't take on other people's stuff. It's just like you choose what you choose, and it's a whole different. And the Karo that practice this are way up in the mountains, so it's a totally different social construct anyhow. But that's one of the common things is, oh, the children of Earth, they walk around with leaky navels because they don't know about these energy centers called Nawis. We know about chakras, but Nawis is like a whole
Oh,
foreign thing to
okay.
us.
I'm learning more as I go. I'm into just the chakras enough, but that's where a lot of the energies get stored. And for people that don't know what chakras are, I guess we maybe should explain
Yeah.
that.
So I'll explain both. Nawis means I, and this is a Quechua word, and there's five main ones, and it is basic. Think of it like it is how you bring energy into and express energy out of your field. Chakras are the energy distribution center of your energies. So like the energy comes in or out, and the chakras are distributing it along the body of being and whatnot. And chakra is a Sanskrit word meaning spinning disc, and they each have a correlation to different focuses of energy. So you have your root chakra, your sacral chakra, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown, if I remember them all. I haven't studied
Yeah.
chakras as much as other things.
So I describe chakras like, I think I did a video on this a long, last summer. I describe them like little motors that are behind your, or so you have your intestines. Behind the intestine is your chakra that kind of, if it's not spinning right, if it's not doing the right thing and it's going, it's going to affect what's going on in the organ. So this may be a really far-fetched idea for a lot of people. I don't know how many people are watching, and you may be like, what? Yeah, no doctor's going to talk to you about this. This is why we do what we do. So you gain a little bit more awareness that these things actually do exist and they do affect your organs. And it's not a matter of just going to, I've got acid reflux and they gave me Nexium. There's a reason why that's happening. Yes, it's toxicity, but behind that is also what's your stress level? What's going on in your life? Because that is hugely impacted. These two things run hand in hand and they have to be handled together. There's no way around that to
Yeah.
me.
I
So,
know Magic Mike is watching, so you can help me with the guy's name. There's a neuroscientist. I forget his name. That's why I'm asking Magic Mike if he knows it to comment. But he was doing. He does topographical studies of brains that are on doing meditation or receiving different types of healing. And while he was doing one research thing, he discovered that there's this secondary nervous system that rides on the lymphatic system, and it's a series of these ganglion nerve that come to the surface of the body, and there's seven of them. And if you look at where these seven ganglia nerve bundles are, it correlates to the chakra system that we know of. And through the process of focusing on an intention, they see that like whatever this is doing, it's pulling in energy from the field. It goes throughout the body and being, and then it expels it at an exponentially higher rate. And he was saying that they're starting to map the process of manifestation. So if
ooh,
this does seem
cool.
far fetched, if it seems far fetched, there is a little bit of science. I know if you Google neuroscientist access bars, there's a video where he's talking about the benefits of access bars with PTSD and stuff like that. But towards the end of the video, he's talking about these ganglion nerve bundles and that.
Fascinating.
And he does not. Oh, Tibetan Masters form. No, Mike, I'm asking you for the name, buddy. You ever type in all kinds of other stuff, but not the name. That's right. Oh,
But there are plenty of
Tammy Jeffrey.
studies. There really are plenty of studies. We can't measure energy. Obviously, it's this gap between what we see and what is, but we measure it indirectly through hertz. Like they actually measure. There is a chart, Hank, somewhere, and I didn't pull that up because we're more on healing. But there's an emotional chart of the frequency of different emotions, and I had it somewhere. Don't know where I have it. It's probably from my old office somewhere. It's
What
stuck,
does it
but
look like, a cone?
yeah, there's a couple of them out
Yep.
there where it ranges like guilt to sadness to happiness to joy, and what's the frequency of the emotion. So they measure emotions indirectly by hertz. I don't know what device and how they measure that exactly, but they measure the frequency, and there are studies for this.
Well, and I'm looking. I'll share here in a second. I'm staggered that every single one of them is like an even. It ends in a zero or five, which is significant because thinking about all the different tuning fork frequencies I have, I don't think any of them end in a zero or hardly any of them end in a zero or a five, which is
I
just
don't know that I recall
interesting.
it being a zero, but point, emotions all have a frequency, so they are affecting us internally. Yeah, that's one of them. Yeah, shame and guilt are at the bottom, bottom of the barrel, and those will cause health issues. They will most certainly cause health issues. And, enlightenment, joy are all at the top, and love. So the more you can be in where is gratitude? They don't have gratitude on that one, do they? No, there's no gratitude. But
Uh,
gratitude is one of the highest frequency emotions. For some reason, they didn't put it on there.
well,
Um, I guess
well,
we're
let's see. I wonder if there's another one here. I did see.
getting a little bit off topic, but
Oh, this is all on topic. It's all great. Oh,
mhm.
it's just hard to make this large, unfortunately. Let me try it a different way. See, you can tell this is improv because we didn't plan for any of this. Otherwise, I would have had this ready.
That's okay. But people can look up emotional vibrational frequency, and it will tell you what emotions have the highest
Well,
frequency and vibration.
and then on the same note as that, pun intended, Barbara Hero did all kinds of work figuring out the healthy frequency of organs. So there's like an organ tuning fork set and stuff like that that helps the organ come into sympathetic resonance. And this one also doesn't have gratitude on it, but
I had one that did, and
it
I that's still from my other office because I was
I'm
showing
betting
clients.
it may be
But
the same as Joy, and well, Joy and Love they have different. There's a book called Conversations with God, and they call it the Five Attitudes of Godliness, and the total joy, blessing, love, gratitude is in there. There's one other. They were saying that it's really all the same thing, but language is so limiting in description that we have five words to describe the same thing because it's so far beyond words that you need more words to describe it. So it was lumping them all in kind of in the same. Oh, acceptance was the other one, into the same type of energy and
that makes
explanation.
sense. Yeah.
All right, but anyway, that gives you just a little taste of what we're talking about when these things have a frequency, and the lower frequencies cause that condensation of energies that I was talking about, that hucha, and when you can start keeping that from condensing, you just improve overall health.
Right. And you'll stay, it's like you, when you take a shower every single day, you almost need to clean your energy every day because we are bombarded and hit with so many things daily, that if we don't clean the field, and I know if this is a far-fetched idea for people, great. Not just let it, and entertain it for a minute and just after we're done, think about it. There, you know, I don't know if there's a better way to explain an aura, but we have an electromagnetic field around you. And I think the best way to describe this is if you've walked across a carpet and you got that little zing, how do you think that happens? It's just like it just happens. No, there's actually a process. We actually have this electromagneticity. So there's something around us that actually creates these things. So if that's happening, I tell people, how does your cell phone work? Well, I don't know. It sends a signal somewhere, right? And we don't see that. So this is no different. We have a field around us that is constantly moving. And when we hold a lot of these negative emotions, worry, fear, anxiety, anger, impatience, fear, all these things, I call it just good old fashioned stress because people can identify with that better. But it's all under that umbrella, and it will start affecting an organ system with time.
And I still have this up from a past broadcast. This is a before and after picture for one of the tuning fork sessions that I did for somebody, and it was done at a fair when there was aura photography. So this is just a demonstration of a camera that's picking up the colors of the energy field, and the technology came so far. Like, notice these are those little Polaroid self-developing pictures. I don't even know if they have those anymore, but you can see that there's a difference in the energy field, and that's just a testament too of how energy works.
And
And
yeah,
yeah, and the way we describe it in the Peruvian tradition I practice, it's called the poppo, and it means bubble. And for lack of a better explanation, if source is all there is, and source is the ocean, and we're a drop from the ocean, the bubble that we're talking about is like a water balloon skin. It's what keeps us as an individualization of that divinity. And at some point in the future, you go back to being the ocean, but while you're not, this is kind of the skin that lets you be you and contains all the filters and energies from your entire lifetime of experiences, or lifetimes of experience if you believe in past lives. So we have a comment. Oh, Doug is just saying absolutely. And oh, Jeffrey Fannin is the name of the neuroscientist. Thank you, Mike, for looking that up for me. So if you want to
thank
look
you,
up
Mike.
him,
Yeah, look
he
him
is
up.
the neuroscientist that talked about the ganglia nerve that's kind of writing where the chakras are, and also mapping the process of manifestation. Brilliant guy, and also very interesting to look at his work because he can show you that while you're getting different energy processes done, what's happening in the brain, how it's going from 5 magnitude norm for anxiety to 0 or normal in like a 90-minute session for some things. So really interesting work and giving a little bit of science behind some of the things that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more and more. And yeah, Doug says, I've seen the studies where they've used, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's the cameras out there for auric fields right now are so much better. So if people are really questioning this, we can, if people want, I mean, please post in the comments, we can probably set something up where we can
Well,
find somebody that does the
Melissa
full.
has one of these machines.
Oh, great. So we can
Yeah.
do a healing. And then if you really want proof before and after,
Yep.
it can be shown
And she's got
that.
a new one where your hand goes on it and it can like see the changes in the energy field as you're actively
Ooh,
working. So like if we were using tuning forks, you would be able to see the aura respond to whatever forks are
amazing.
being used and stuff like that. And if you wanted to get your own, I think on the, is it every Sunday or only the first Sunday of the month? If you go to Goddess Elite's website, goddesselite.com, you can look up the aura photography days, and they have a reader in the store. So not only do you get your picture, you get a little report, and then one of the readers of the store will like interpret your aura and tell you information about it. So if you want a little bit of a walk on the woo-woo side, you can go get a little a little aura reading from Goddess Elite.
Yeah, I mean, this is really fascinating things, and we have a group that we were talking about with the RA group. There's a gastroenterologist now that she's actually left the practice, and this is all she's doing now is really just trying to tie in the scientific evidence with energetic healing to show what can we do, what can we accomplish by doing energetic healings, having a surgery, having a doctor, and doing all these things. This has never been done really, where I don't want to say maybe never, but more and more, I think we
Well,
want it more and more.
ironically, the clinic does it. You can schedule a Reiki session before and after surgeries. Of course, they
Okay.
don't charge for it. It's all volunteer, but you get a count. My dad had it done when he had to go in for some procedures. They actually had people come around the room talk about Reiki, and because the clinic did a double-blind placebo study on Reiki to show that it's effective.
Okay.
They don't understand what happens, but they know something happens, and so they offer it now.
Oh, good. So I think they're doing it more and more now, but the goal is to pump out more of this
Yeah.
research so that people know that this is very, very helpful. So to really clean out the system. So I have a little sheet here that I'll read through some of these things so that people get a more deeper understanding, that I think spelled it out really nice. But the heart is the principal organ um, of the vital faculty. So it's really, the heart is very sensitive to emotional states. And so the whole syndrome of dying of a broken heart is a very legitimate thing. They have done studies on this. I actually posted an article on this probably about 7, 8 months ago on my Facebook page. Good luck if you want to find it. I can probably pull it up again.
On a sound
But
note for the heart, that is the frequency of Om for the chakra and the balancing of the
mhm.
heart, and it's at 136.1 hertz. And you get it as a weighted tuning fork. You can place the stem right on your sternum. I wish I would have brought one with me, but if you're interested in stuff like that, if you go to my website, I have a whole line of tuning forks. So
So
hanksetala.com.
you can do
Shameless plug.
that.
Yep,
Yeah, there's
that's
so
just
much
another tool.
so much you can do. Absolutely. The heart and the gut are really big ones. So it's no, so emotions like uplifting emotions like honesty, forthrightness, altruism, compassion, strengthen the heart and the vital spirits, whereas ignoble, constrictive based emotions like cowardice, timidity, if that's a word, guilt, remorse, deceit, weaken them. So in medicine, you can actually die of a broken heart. It's also the hottest organ in the body, so it's very vulnerable. Um, it's also very vulnerable to hot and turbulent passions. So when people are really passionate about something, you're going to feel that in the heart to the point that it can actually even create a fever. Like, how fascinating is that? So it's the heart is a big one. I don't know if you want to make an additional comment
Well,
there,
two things. One, Mary was just chiming in that her Reiki teacher was part of the study that we were just talking about at
oh,
the clinic,
cool.
so that's pretty cool. I knew someone too, but somebody outed them. They were in for giving a session, and they're like, "Oh, you're one of the real ones," and he had to get booted from the study because it was a placebo study, so he couldn't be in it anymore.
Mhm.
And the second thing is, I've known at least two personal friends who, when their spouse died, or one was a spouse, they passed very quickly right afterwards, and then.
Mhm.
One of the ladies who used to run the John S. Knight Center, the Seek the Light Expo down by Akron, her son died, and literally the next day she was already gone. She had passed away too. And when you're talking about you can die from a broken heart, I'm just thinking of these examples and of people doing just that and not being prepared for the loss, or who's to judge? Maybe that's just the way that they wanted to go, but it just seems like could we have created a society that would have helped people get through things like that? I don't know, but anyway.
It's a huge, for those people that are very close, it's a huge like impact in the chest. And you're either able to handle that, withstand that or not. Or I actually have a handful of patients that I just chit chat with them sometimes, even back in, when I was at Premier in my podiatry days, and they just, they have all these heart problems. And then they start to, well, my wife died 5 years ago. And I'm like, fascinating that you're starting to develop these heart issues, lung issues. I've had about 5 people like that. So
Oh,
there's no coincidence there.
well, it's just thinking of that. If you don't pass quickly, it might be something that gets in there, and if it's not addressed now, it's procuring over a longer
Right.
time period. Yeah.
Haven't grieved, haven't let go. People really need help letting go. It's not just putting them on Valium, or Xanax or something. That's not solving the problem. You really have to clean that energy out and help that person go through the grieving process and clean that energy so that it doesn't get congested and they don't develop heart trouble down the road. And if they choose to go, well, then maybe that was the soul contract too. We don't know all the answers to that, but moving on to the lungs. The lungs are, two organs that we have side by side, and the feelings of being smothered, invalidated, or denied when psychic space can constrict the lungs and cause respiratory problems like dyspnea, which is difficulty breathing, like shortness of breath, and asthma. Negative emotions that sap will to live are also injurious to the lungs, especially grief and bereavement, and will cause respiratory diseases as well as, this has a connection to the heart as well. So these two organs, I think sometimes grief and hate and all these things can congest this whole area. So if you want to add in anything there,
Yeah. Well,
because
I
I know
know.
you're the organ guy too,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I know there's a frequency for healthy lungs, but the other one from a chakra perspective that would help with this would be the planet frequency of Mercury. Mercury rules the throat chakra, and it's about the expression. And if you do have things that are being held in, I always think of the lungs as part of the place where you start to express who you are into this world, and that would be a great one to open that up. So if you do have something congested there, that you can more freely talk about it. And then the lung fork for the physical healing of the lungs if you need to create sympathetic resonance.
Yeah, the throat is tied in too. So sometimes it's kind of tough they're all going to start to connect
Yep.
sometimes. So we move on to the throat, and the throat is the body's main communication
Oh,
center.
see, I made a segue. Look at that.
You made a segue. The throat is also part of the upper digestive tract too. So we want to remember that, the esophagus and everything there. And it is hence part of the natural faculty, and any acute emotional tensions and anxieties can agitate the natural force also in the liver and get to the bottlenecked throat area. So all these things we start, that chart we showed you initially, they all kind of have all these arrows because they can interconnect. And so when people often they're stuffing emotions down, they feel like they can't speak their truth. Um, Worry sits here as well. This is a point of our decision making as well. So this is where it's very injurious and can cause dysfunction. You start getting throat issues, you can start getting esophageal issues, even some digestive issues. So a lot of like thyroid complications. If people are having a difficult time speaking or they're worrying a lot, there is something working its way in. So we have to address that. So I'll let
Right.
Hank chime into
Yeah.
his
Well,
portion of it.
and also I do have a comment, but I'll bring this up so you can think about this question. Suggestions for natural remedies for stress and depression. And oh, now did I lose my thought? I should have said my thought first. Maybe it's gone. If it comes back later. But Mark was wondering for natural remedies for stress and depression. I know I have two aromatherapy things that are good. One specifically formulated for depression, one more for relaxation and stress on my website. And it's just a combination of essential oils. Though the depression roll on, if you're on any depression medication, it's counterindicated the way that it works. So you couldn't use it if you're already taking a medication. But if not, then it's certainly something to look at. Did you have anything specifically for depression and stress?
I do for stress more primarily, but I think I always get back to why are you having the stress and why are you having the depression? Because if you unlodge that, you won't have the stress and depression anymore, right?
That is
So
true.
instead of taking, I look at it this way. If somebody comes to me and they have a lot of stress and a lot of depression, and sometimes it takes a few sessions to get these unclogged and for things to start resolving and giving you some tools. So maybe we give you a little something to help in the interim, but let's just pluck out the root, pluck out the weed so that you don't have these things or you're better equipped to deal with them. But in between, there is something called Ziziphus combination is it's a natural Xanax. And that's one of the things that I use to kind of help with anxiety. And depression is, and don't forget, there's also, mineral deficiencies with this. So sometimes it's a simple fix of just taking some magnesium, to calm yourself down. There's a handful of things there, but getting to the source of the problem is the
Right.
important part.
And if you don't have anything in your life where you feel you should be depressed, then also has the question, because as empaths and people who and as a species who is very aware, and we're all developing our sixth sense, is the depression that you're experiencing yours, or are you so aware of a family member that you're tied to that you're being aware of their depression and taking it on as your own? So that's another great question. If it doesn't make sense because you haven't had that type of experience to cause it, then start looking at, well, is there someone around me that I'm just being aware of, and then you might be able to shift that to not experience it anymore. Let's see.
Yep, those are important pieces there, Mark. So it's not always about what can I take to shut this down. Let's get to, is it yours? If it
Yeah.
is, then let's clear that out so that we pluck out that weed that's causing your stress and depression, and then you won't need anything.
Yeah. We have Jay just chiming in and giving an example of how he uses intuition, that he spends hours in the ocean surfing, and that he can feel the energy of a shark or dolphin swimming near him, and the ocean instantly puts me in a healing meditative state. But I bring
Mm,
that up because just notice that whatever you're doing in life, we're very experienced in getting through our days at this point. And
yeah,
if you think about when you start driving a car, you're always like being so careful and mindful, but then it comes to the point where it's natural, and you can even have an intuitive sense. How often did you just know that someone in front of you that didn't have a turn signal on was about to cut you off? Like, if you're really open and aware to it. So start giving yourself some credit of how aware you are, and where are you
yeah,
aware that things aren't yours. You could start really actively facilitating out of you so you don't have to
yeah.
deal with it anymore.
Absolutely. These are all little key pieces and they do take a little bit of work. Just be patient with yourself. Come see one of us so we can help move you through that. And then wouldn't it be nice if it's like gone or it's not at a level of a 10, it's at a level of a 2 and you're able to handle it much better? A little point on Jay's comment on the ocean. The ocean has amazing cleansing properties. The ocean is full of salt, and salt is amazing to pull off negative emotions. Unfortunately, we are not near an ocean here in Ohio, but if any of you have traveled to Florida or California or somewhere near the ocean, hopefully some of you have gone. If you haven't, please do. But you'll notice how you feel much calmer. I know when I go to Florida, I am like, you could tell me my house is burning down. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's
And
pulling things.
interesting thing, in Germany, a lot of the rehab centers where people go after surgeries, like two of the ones I had been to, they have these things outside of the hospital that are these large fountains, that it's a saltwater fountain. And one of the things that they do therapeutically is that people are out taking their walks, walking around that fountain, because they recognize that the salt water and the atomization, even of the salt getting into the body, creates this cleansing or this healing effect. So we're kind of behind the times here sometimes. And their doctors, one of their electives is aromatherapy. So if you're a medical doctor in Germany, you might have taken a class and learned about aromatherapy and how you could implement it in your practice. And here, that's not happening at all,
That's so sad. So maybe
isn't
we
it?
need to do a session on the history of medicine because homeopathy was actually used a long time ago and it has been booted out completely. So, but yes, that's another thing. So since we're not near an ocean, the other thing you can do is take salt baths, and this is regular table salt in your bathtub. Don't sit in there for more than 15 minutes. Make sure the water is not hot because it will, if you get into really hot water, I mean, I love hot showers, but it kind of your body will then go, oh crap, this is really hot, and it sends a misfire in your system as a stressor to your adrenals, and you don't want that. So just nice comfortable water.
Oh, we got our comedian Mark now coming up saying, I will only drink ocean water from now on,
You
right?
can't drink
Yeah,
ocean
between
water.
that and then only drinking whiskey instead of tap
Sit
water
in
from the
it.
last episode. I don't know if Mark is going to be with us by the next episode. For the
You-
record, we're not endorsing anybody to drink ocean water. We hope Mark makes it with us till the next show.
Yeah, you sit in it, or move to Florida. But why do you think a lot of, people kind of move to Florida or Hawaii? There's a different energy there. Because there's this ocean arena, you just feel calmer and less depressed. And the sunshine makes a difference too. But the simple thing to do at home is just fill your bathtub up with water, put about 2 to 3 pounds of regular table salt, sit in it for 15 minutes and get out. And you can do that, once a day or 2 times a week, and
And
that will help.
And if you want to add a few essential oils like
Essential oils in it.
lavender,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah.
Well,
Thank
but
you.
the thing is, draw your bath first and do what she
Yes.
said. In a cup of warm water, you put a little bit more salt, put your oils in there, add that right before you get in. And because of the amount of salt that you have in the bath, the oil is suspended in the water instead of floating to the top. And literally everywhere where you're submerged, you will be absorbing the oil. So it's a way more effective way than if you put it in separately, like at the beginning or something like that, if you do it this way. So,
Yes. And that will make you feel calmer. Yeah, I tell people to put lavender and tea tree.
yep,
Tea tree got to be a little careful with
just a
pets
couple
because it's
drops.
toxic. Yeah, just a
Yeah.
couple drops.
Well, it
I
depends
learned
on
that
the
the
pet.
hard way.
Like cats can't metabolize oils, and you'll wipe out a cat pretty easily. But dogs are a little bit more resilient to it. So it depends on your pet. But yeah, in general, just a couple drops though. Less is more with the oils, and no citrus. Well, if you do use citrus, no more than 6 drops total of any combined citrus oil. Otherwise, it can burn you in areas you don't want to burn, especially ladies. So you don't want to do that. and just make sure you don't go putting dropperfuls in. Really, maybe a total of 10
Yeah.
drops total, and no more than 6 citrus. And be mindful of hot oils like cinnamon and things like that. But for general relaxation, lavender, cedar, those types of things are amazing.
Yeah, that's a great thing you can do. So there's another tool trick. Liver, gallbladder, we kind of discussed that, but bile is produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder, which we talked about last session. Which make these two organs vulnerable to negative choleric emotions such as anger, irritability, frustration, resentment, jealousy, and envy. Anger and rage can explode upward from the liver into the head, causing lots of havoc in their wake, which causes headaches, migraines, sores, bloodshot eyes, muscular tension in the neck and the shoulders, nervous and emotional tensions and stress, as well as melancholic emotions such as pent-up worry will stagnate the flow, natural force of the liver, which causes nervousness, colicky type of feeling, disturbance in digestive issues. So this is another area, again, that everything's kind of tied in. So that's a lot. If you want to chime into those organs.
No, just there's
No.
tuning forks specifically for the organ frequencies that you can use. If you don't want to invest in like a $300 tuning fork set, I don't think it's on my website, but I show out it. There's like a chart that shows you all the frequency of organs, and if you use a program like Audacity, you can just generate the tone to help bring it into sympathetic resonance. So tuning fork or just generate the tone that can help with it as well. But all these other things are way more fun to play with tuning forks and things.
Anything you can do. Um, Stomach is, we've talked about, it's really a lot of the governing center of energy flow and distribution of that energy. The stomach chakra, and the stomach sends the energy in the stomach sends energy throughout the whole organ system. So it's really, really important. So emotions like, again, anger, hate, rage, frustration can lead to gastritis, ulcers, and different stomach conditions. So this is where we hold a lot of our stress. So worry, anxiety, they all really get stored in the stomach, and you can get things like distension. So that's your bloating, gas, stomach aches. It's really, what can you not stomach is the main line. Would you not want to digest? What are you being told that you're like, nope, nope, not going to do it. Resistance, all these things. That's the first place I go, is cleaning out that stomach and
Right.
cleaning out the energy there.
And just a clearing to go along with all of what we're talking about, this is from Access, that a lot of times the being is aware of these things and we choose not to do anything about it. And then the body is acknowledging the things that we're aware of for us. So the clearing just to run this energy. And the idea after I say this question is that it brings up one energy, actually two different energies, and we're going to get rid of the energy that's allowing it to happen and step into the energy where you won't have the issue anymore. So what are you the being aware of that you're not acknowledging, that the body's acknowledging for you, that is creating all the dis-ease and things going on in your body, in your life. And everything that is allowing that, we destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So that's just a clearing to start taking all the stuff that we're turning a blind eye to really look at and start dealing with it. All right.
Yeah, I think that's a very key point there is a lot of times there's things going on, but we're not dealing with it. And so people are like, but my neck hurts. Okay. So you get it adjusted. Well, it still hurts and I have to keep going. Well, yeah, because you haven't, your body is going to continue to send you this message
Yep.
until you pay attention.
Who's the pain in the neck in my life that I'm not willing to acknowledge?
Hmm.
And
Or
once you
pain in
start
the
acknowledging,
back,
or
or
pain in the
yeah,
back, yeah, or whatever the case is, like
yeah.
it might be something very simple that you need, that you look at, address, and change your something in your life, and all of a sudden that goes away. There was actually a lady, Dr. Dane here, who's one of the authors that I read. He was giving this example of this little old lady in the store. She had dropped something and she couldn't bend down to pick it up because of back pain. And he asked her, "Well, whose back pain is that?" She's like, "My husband's, and I'm sick of it." And she just bent down then and picked it up, no problem at all, because she was acknowledging it wasn't her pain and she just let it go. So what if some of these things could be that easy? So
They can be. Healing can happen in an instant if you allow it.
yes,
Allow is the key word. Sometimes we resist, sometimes we want to hang on to it because we're just not, it's giving us something. It is giving us something,
and you
and
used a
that's
great word,
tricky.
resist. And one of the key functionings of the universe is what you resist persists, because you're
Hmm.
giving it attention, and the universe will give you more of it, even if it's something you don't want, because you're giving it attention and resisting it, you get more of it. It's just a
Hmm.
weird way the universe works.
Yep. So I've had a few clients that say, I want to get better, but I want to get better. I don't want this. But you're not allowing the healing because everything I tell you to do, you're resisting. Not everything, but a lot of the things, or you create something new. So, what is your pain? What is your stomach ache trying to tell you? What is your leg pain trying to tell you? That's really the ultimate. What is it giving you? What is it giving you that you don't want to let go of? So, these are things we have to address. And sometimes we create our own chaos because we like to stay in the struggle. Sometimes that just happens. It gives us something because if we take this thing, whatever's causing the pain away, then what?
Ooh, and actually, one thing with that, like if you're the type of person that is, there's always problems and you're the problem solver, what if you've accepted that role? And because you've accepted the role of being the problem solver, you subconsciously create all these problems around you to solve, and really, you don't need to be the problem solver anymore. You could be something different. So,
Hank,
like,
stop
what,
describing me, please.
yeah,
Please
so
don't
what
put me.
roles are we using to create the limitations we are choosing? And all that
Please
that
put
is
that on
pot of
your
pock.
notes for when I see you next, because I think we didn't address that last time.
Oh, we
I
just
am. I
addressed it
will.
now.
I will fully admit I'm a problem solver. I love my brain loves to get in and try to solve things, and I'm like, but that's causing me a lot of stress sometimes. But I mean, it's what I do. It's part of my gift, so I have to just find a different way of addressing that. But the spleen is a storage receptacle also for some bile, and but it also is a large part of your immune system. So this is another place where we store a ton of energy. So if people haven't had any energy cleaning and they're a lot, they are in an area where they're just really busy at work and they have super rough family lives, spleen needs to be cleaned out too, because this is another place we store a lot of energy that, if not cleaned out, works its way in and causes blood issues, causes immune issues, some digestive issues. So it's a really important thing to clean out because worry, pent up depression, and all those sorts of things sit in there too. Intestines, bowels are pretty much the same thing because everything really does get tied together. Colon, that's part of that. We talked about kidneys. So fright, being in fright all the time, in fear, in shock. This is really kind of taxes the kidney and causes problems there. So you get things like urinary retention, or maybe some urinary tract infections, bladder infections. What else? Anything that causes urinary issues, problems, urinary tract infections, even some detoxification issues. So I've covered a lot there, Hank. If you want to toss in some things to kidneys or
I don't have
spleen.
anything specifically for it, but I guess the one thing overall that's good for all of this and whatever else other organs we talk about is the idea that everything that's stored in these areas is there because of a judgment. And it's us judging things as good or bad, right or wrong, what we resist and react to, or what we align and agree with. Either one of those is in this polarity of of the duality, right? But if we can be an allowance of everything, we take the judgment off of it. We can just experience the things and they flow through us. But it's when we start having all these judgments and now worrying about it because of the judgment of what it means that this happens, that's where all this really starts to cement into the physicality. So just a general comment, nothing specific for the kidneys and whatnot.
Yeah, keyword allowance.
Yep.
These things we're discussing is not, I'm not meaning for you to go out of this, session and this little informative state of ours to say, oh my gosh, I got all this stuff. Don't take it on. It's just an awareness, because a lot of people don't have this awareness to, if you're having a lot of acid reflux, if you're having a lot of digestive issues, maybe see one of us and see if we can clean some of that out, because I have done a handful of people that we've just done some energetic clearings and stomach ache goes away and we put them on a little probiotic and things are pretty decent. So it can be a very simple thing. And if the more open you are and the more you allow, the faster things happen. So these are just meant as awarenesses of things that maybe you have not heard of before. So
Yep.
that's important.
Yep. And I did just post the doctor's website or for her profile page on our center site, and I will put up that is her direct website here in the upper left hand corner. So if you are looking to reach out, then you can definitely do that. And my website is hanksetala.com. I just put that up. And I know we just had a comment as well, so let me skip over to that.
And we're right next door to each other, so
Yep.
it's very easy
We're
to
in the
see us
same
both.
plaza. Yeah. You could see one of us and then just walk down. You don't have to get in your car and drive down. You
Right,
can
you
just
walk.
walk. But Jay was offering healing starts in the mind for sure. We must open your mind to let the healing start. Hesitation can be our biggest enemy, in my opinion. And also, people value their trauma and drama. If you spent 28 years of your life getting to the point where you're all messed up, what do you mean you can have one session and heal from all that? Like some people put so much value in how they got there that they want an equal amount of effort put into the healing, and that does not have to happen. But I have many people like that where they're just putting so much value in the story, and that's the first thing we have to address is get rid of the value of the story so you can step into a possibility on a much shorter timeline with ease instead of having to go years and years and years.
Yeah, the mind is such a powerful thing, and that's where I completely agree, and that's where I focus a lot of my time is in the mind and healing the if you dislodge it in the mind, it'll dislodge in the body. It really does happen. It's just not everybody moves at a very quick
Yep.
rate,
We
like
got a
you
saying in
said.
Access, or even it's also in AA, I guess. If you're thinking, you're stinking because the mind, it's going through all these filters and you start adding stuff that was never there to begin with. You took an innocent event and then piled all this crap on it, and then it gets into the body and starts causing havoc. So,
Yeah, absolutely. The adrenals, we talked about, that's a high area of stress. So if you work at a job that's very stressful, you're going to have adrenal dysfunction, burnout. If you drink a lot of coffee, it's going to cause adrenal. But if you're drinking a lot of coffee
why,
because
why do
you're,
you say that so passionately when you're talking? Yeah, because you
not
know I'm drinking
you.
coffee.
I
Yeah.
don't know that you're
Now,
drinking
see, look,
coffee.
look,
I
look.
have no
Well,
idea.
today
What are you
actually,
drinking over there?
I got a caffeinated beverage.
But there's people that like the taste of coffee. There's
No,
people
I
that
know.
can't go without it. The
No,
people I'm talking to, the people that can't go
the
without it.
truth is because we've talked about me drinking coffee before. I'm
I know.
hearing that through my filters and adding extra potency that's not really there, right? So that's a great example of what I
This
was
is the
just talking
last
about.
time. I will not say it again.
No,
My
no.
last statement. If you if you cannot live without coffee, you have to have 5 cups a day just to stay awake. Something somewhere needs to be cleaned up, and you're burning out your adrenals. So that's stress. Um, Male reproductive organs, feelings of fear, inadequacy, insecurity, performance. Those can cause, issues down there. Female organs, same things. Fear of anxiety can cause fear and anxiety can cause problems down there. Brain, well, all sorts of stuff sits in the brain. Withdraw, worry, um, those sorts of things can cause, and even anger and rage and all those emotions really sit in the brain. So there's just there's so much really, but I hope we covered a lot of these emotions, kind of where they sit, and ultimately we're kind of at the end. But people have, well, what do we do? How do we heal emotionally? Is the ultimate question. There is no one set answer, but a lot of people, what can I take? What can I take for this? because antidepressants aren't healing anything. They're pushing down your emotions, and maybe sometimes you need that to get through. But let's start working on getting you off and finding what's underneath that problem. And the things we discussed here are some of the tools that we use to clean things out permanently so that they're not troubling you anymore, or we can get you from a stress level of 10 or fear level of 10 down to a 2. So it's much more manageable.
I think the biggest thing is if you have a lot of emotional issues and things going on, just really making the conscious choice to start being in your experience and choosing, really start choosing. Like, just don't go, week, 2 weeks go by and you're like, yeah, I still need to deal with that. Another month goes by, that's still something I need to
Exactly.
deal with. Where you're actually consciously making choice in as many moments as you can. Will this create more lightness in my life around my emotions, or will it not? And if you can get that binary dialogue of the universe, everything that you choose, is this going to create lightness in my life or create heaviness? Even that, at least you stop adding fuel to the fire, and you can start, you're showing up. So like, you're going to start making choices that are going to be lighter for you if you show up for your experience. And a lot of us go on autopilot, and then we miss out on a lot.
Yeah. This is almost a part two to this, because now we really need to discuss how do we help people move through some of these things, because emotions they're not seen, they're not tangible. You can't just, you yourself can't pull them out of your head. What you can do is start making different choices. Number one, bring your awareness up. Okay, I'm feeling really angry. I've been feeling really angry for a long time. Number two, it's time to do something about it. Don't put it on the back burner, because if you put it on the back burner, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it at some point.
And then it
It's going to
finally
start
boils
working.
over, and now you got issues.
And now you got issues. Number three, if you're really needing some sort of supplement, everybody always asks, what supplement can I take for anxiety? What supplement can I take for this? Let that not be your crutch, that's what you're going to take for the rest of your life. Let's just, do it to help you through, maybe while we're working on something, because some people are maybe in a really tough relationship or a really tough work situation, and it's not something you can quit today. But let's give you something. Let's start cleaning to start getting you a plan so you can get to something better. And if we need to give you something gentle to keep you calmer, we can. But let's not make that the permanent thing. Let's pull out the weeds so that you start to feel better permanently. I think that would be my best advice.
That's awesome. And Mark, he knows our show. He was saying, another epic show. Thank you both for your great advice. Have a safe and peaceful weekend. And of course,
You
he has to
too.
go out on a joke. He says, no, no coffee, only drink straight from the garden hose. Oh, Mark.
Speaking of that, I just did a video the other day, and Mark was probably watching that one too. Remember how last week you said there's chromium 6 in the water?
Yeah.
So I started researching that, and there's a really great website. It's www.ewg.org. And if you go on there um, and you plug in your zip code, I'm sorry, it will tell you the contaminants in the water. I was floored as to what we have, what contaminants we have in the water.
um, you might
Yikes.
not want to know, but it's better to make choices in awareness than in ignorance. So I
So
encourage
don't
everyone.
drink out of the garden hose. I don't know what Mark's going to drink. We've taken
No,
everything from him already.
I know. Well, I hope you make it next week, Mark, and you're still around and not drinking ocean water the whole time. But thank you, everyone. If you're watching this on the replay, please still ask your comments. We can definitely get to them on the next show, or we're good about interacting with the comments after the fact. So if you're watching on a replay and you had a question, please still comment. And if you're going to watch this on a replay to go catch the beginning, please start a watch party, share the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can help continue to spread more awareness around these topics. All right.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Bye,
We'll catch you
everyone.
next time, everyone. Bye bye.